Incredible waitress rushes billionaire's daughter to ER, shocking poisoning disco. Maya's heart raced as chaos around her. She had just stepped outside to catch a breath when the piercing shrieks of panic filled the air, slicing through the regular hum of the crowded nightclub. The mingled scents of sweat and fancy cologne swirled around her, but this was no time for the usual sensations of a Saturday night. When she caught sight of Bella, the billionaire's daughter, crumpled on the floor, everything in her being urged her to act. Disbelief momentarily paused her instincts, but as the crowd jostled and gasped, Maya leaped into action. Why was she even here? She had a shift at the diner to manage, a family to support. Yet how could she ignore someone in need, especially someone like Bella, who lived in a world so different from hers? Each step toward Bella felt like a tightrope walker's routine, every breath requiring conscious effort. Doubts flickered through her mind like strobe lights. Would she be enough? Would the medical staff even listen to her, a waitress amidst the chaos of wealth and privilege? As she navigated through the surge of bodies, Maya felt the weight of her own reality crash into her. Her dad's recent passing still loomed over her, echoing in her responsibilities. College had always been a dream, shimmering on the horizon, always just out of reach. Balancing work and family felt like an endless cycling of dishes and orders. Her aspirations seemed foolish, drowned in the noise of survival. But right now, saving Bella was imperative. The moans of bystanders faded into the background, and she took Bella's arm, lifting the girl with surprising strength. The air thickened with anxiety. A billionaire's daughter was down. What if something terrible happened on her watch? Panic tightened in Maya's chest, matching the fever pitch of the nightclub. "Just stay with me, Bella," she whispered, though she gulped down her own uncertainty. "Help is coming." Once they reached the emergency room, however, the atmosphere shifted. The disdainful looks from the medical staff were sharp, making her feel like an interloper. "Another one here to waste our time," a nurse muttered, and Maya felt her insides churn. Whatever they thought, she couldn't let it deter her. She clenched her fists involuntarily, remembering her father's insistence on dignity and respect. They didn't know her story or the burdens she bore. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Maya's heart sank deeper while the doctors debated Bella's treatment, their hushed tones drenched in condescension. A fury bubbled inside her. Didn't they know how hard she worked to bring every meal to the table? How fiercely she fought through each shift to keep her family afloat? As the realization hit that she was on equal, if not more desperate ground than Bella, Maya's resolve stiffened. This isn't just about saving a life. It's a testament to her father's legacy, and she wouldn't allow anyone to undermine that, especially those who dismissed her for her station in life. And just as she was constructing the fragile threads of courage beneath the storm of judgment, the door swung open. A grim-faced man strode in. His presence bade an unsettling recognition deep within her. Memories flickered like candlelight. His face belonged to her father's past, a reminder of betrayal, a ghost of her family's history. Every muscle in her body tightened, fear coursing through her. Would they reveal the truth connecting her to Bella, forcing her into a confrontation that threatened to shatter the fragile bridge she had begun to construct? Maya felt the threads of her world, carefully woven, come undone, leaving her suspended between curiosity and dread. Decisions loomed in the air like a storm ready to crash, and as she prepared to wrestle with her own heart, a voice inside screamed, would she seek justice for her father's past, or seize the opportunity to forge a new future, one that might entangle her forever with Bella's world? Maya's mind raced as she stared at the man entering the ER, each thought colliding with the next. Recognition clawed at her. He was someone tied to the tangled web of her family's past. Instinctively, she tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear, a nervous habit that surfaced in moments of uncertainty. The man, gray at the temples but with a youthful assertiveness in his gait, moved toward Bella. His expression shifted from stoic to tense as he assessed the situation. Maya didn't want to be invisible, yet she felt the weight of expectation in the air. How could she make her voice heard amidst the authoritative presence he commanded? "Who are you?" a doctor snapped at him. "No time for pleasantries," he retorted, his voice firm. "I'm her father's associate. I need to know what's happening now." That word, father, struck a nerve. It echoed in her mind, a painful reminder of her own loss. The edge of the familiar ache stirred within her. She clenched her jaw. Should she step forward now, confront him with the questions that loomed large, questions about her father, about betrayal, and the connection that tangled their destinies? As the medical team buzzed around Bella, Maya's heart beat deafeningly in her chest. "You need to step back," one doctor advised, glancing dismissively at the man. "We've got this under control." Maya hesitated, but then made her choice. She drew in a breath, gathering strength as her father's voice floated up from her memory, urging her to stand tall. "Excuse me," she called out, her voice surprisingly steady. The room's tension shifted. The eyes of the staff turned toward her. "I was the one who brought her in. I know what happened." The man turned sharply, surprise flickering across his face. It barely registered, but she saw a glimmer of recognition. Perhaps he remembered her father. Maya's heart pounded harder. She had his attention. "What do you know?" he asked, stepping closer. "I know she was poisoned," she replied, each word resonating with the truth of her experience. "I saw her collapse. She needs help, real help, just like any person would." The disbelief on the medical staff's faces fueled her resolve. They were about to dismiss her again, to push her back into the shadows of their privileged world, but this time she wouldn't allow it. She looked directly at the man, forcing herself to stand her ground. "You're not the only one who cares about her." For a moment, uncertainty hung heavy in the air. Then he nodded, a flicker of admiration underlying his steely demeanor. "Then let's make sure she gets the best treatment possible. I have resources. Maybe we can work together." Maya's mind whirled at the unexpected proposal. Could she trust him? Did his interest in her capability stem from an understanding of their shared histories, or was it simply a professional maneuver? The walls of doubt clawed at her mind, urging her to retreat, but the surge of adrenaline propelled her forward. She wanted to demonstrate her worth, to prove that her experience on the front line mattered. This was her chance to assert herself, to step beyond her role as a waitress and carve a space in a realm that had always seemed beyond her reach. "I'll do whatever it takes, but we need to address Bella's condition first." With a sense of urgency igniting a fire in her belly, Maya shifted her focus to the doctors, making herself an advocate in that room. Each ounce of respect she earned, every bit of attention she commanded, felt like a small victory for her father's memory. She pushed aside her earlier fears, fueling a growing determination to redefine her place in both Bella's life and her own. As the medical team engaged with the man, coordinating with heightened urgency, Maya's resolve crystallized. This was not just about Bella. It was a crusade for her own identity, the reconciliation of past injustices, and the opportunity to redefine what she was capable of in a world that had dismissed her for too long. Then, a sudden scream pierced the tension, redirecting all focus back to Bella. Panic surged through Maya again. Had her moment of assertiveness come at too high a cost? "What's happening?" she gasped, gripping the edge of the nearest counter as her gaze darted toward the commotion. As the room erupted in chaos once more, one single thought consumed her. Would she ever find the strength to hold her ground when the stakes climbed higher than she could possibly imagine? The moment the scream shattered the air, Maya felt the world constricting around her. Time slowed as she turned toward the source. Bella's body, once desperate for help, now lay still amidst a flurry of activity.
Medical staff swarmed like bees, their expressions grim yet intensely focused, and an overwhelming sense of urgency gripped the room. "What's going on?" Maya repeated, her voice rising above the din, a desperate plea to understand. The doctors were too immersed in their roles to glance back at her. The man associated with Bella's father pressed closer to the team, his initial composure fracturing as panic wrestled with professionalism. Maya's instinct kicked in. Her body surged forward on impulse. She needed to be near Bella. Somehow she always felt that proximity would ground her, strengthen her resolve. She pushed through the throngs of hospital personnel, her mind racing with possibilities. She had to find a way to help, to give Bella a fighting chance, even amid the chaos. Deep inside, a flicker broke through the suffocating fear, a growing awareness of her own strength. Was she capable of being more than just an observer in this narrative? "Make some space," someone shouted, and Maya instinctively widened the gap between the doctors and the gathering crowd. As they worked, her field of vision caught the doctor furthest away, whose hands were poised over Bella's chest. The rhythm of their movements, methodic and practiced, struck Maya with a mix of admiration and intimidation. She fought to steady her breathing. She would not be drowned in her self-doubt. Engaging with this drama meant risking exposure of her own vulnerabilities she had spent years cultivating into professional armor. In that moment, she recognized a constant fear. Was assertiveness synonymous with arrogance? Was she merely masquerading as someone competent in a world where she felt outclassed? As she lined the doctor's actions with her own memories of CPR from her training courses, she realized that knowledge ignited her determination. Her father had instilled in her the value of preparation. She had been a wreck not being trained for high-stakes scenarios, but she had learned how to take action. This was not dissimilar. All she needed was the right application of her understanding. "No, we need to stabilize her heart," she commanded, her voice projected through layers of medical jargon and chaos. The audible crack of her conviction shifted the atmosphere. Heads turned, and she saw the glances of shocked disbelief meld with cautious respect on the doctors' faces. "What do you know?" the man asked, skepticism palpable in his tone, but Maya didn't flinch. "She needs epinephrine," she stated plainly, her heart drumming heavily against her ribs. What gave her the audacity to speak was buried deep within her. She was unworthy of that space. The doctor she addressed hesitated, weighing her words against urgency. A flash of annoyance raced through the man, but then he nodded, an unexpected spark of collaboration igniting between them. "Get the epinephrine," he shouted, his voice cutting through the tension. Within moments, a nurse rushed the needed medication, and Maya felt a surge of adrenaline course through her. The atmosphere shifted again. The focus was on action now. "What's your name?" the doctor asked, looking right at her, the doubt evaporating. "Maya," she replied, her pulse steadying with the engagement. "All right, Maya, stay close. We need eyes on Bella's vital signs. She'll be safe with our coordination." Encouraged, Maya anchored herself in the moment. She took a position where she could view everything as the team operated on Bella. For the first time, she felt like part of the answer rather than merely an observer. She was not just the girl who once served cocktails. She was an advocate for Bella's life. Engulfed by powerful emotions, Maya's thoughts ricocheted as she thought of her father. What would he tell her now? That she had always had a voice worth listening to? As the chaos began to morph into a clinical rhythm, she steadied herself for the long fight ahead. Yet in the pit of her stomach lay the disquieting urge to confront the man beside her. Why had he come now? Did he truly want Bella healed, or did his motivations lie in the need to maintain connections that spanned influence and money? Just as she prepared to voice her suspicions, a deafening alarm pierced the air, plunging Maya back into the storm of uncertainty. The lights above flickered as another wave of chaos crashed against her newfound sense of agency. With uncertainty looming and the urgency rising, Maya braced herself, wondering if she could navigate the shadows of danger now surrounding her. Would she find the answers she sought amid the turmoil, or was her moment of resolve just the beginning of an even greater challenge?
Maya squeezed her eyes shut for a brief moment, absorbing the tension spiraling around her. The alarm blared relentlessly, a discordant symphony punctuating the urgency of the situation. Her feet felt immobile for a second, rooted by a swirl of doubt, yet she forced her mind to break free. There was absolutely no room for hesitation now. Bella needed her. She refocused on the medical team, her heart racing alongside the cadence of their actions. Empowered by her recent decisions and the flickers of confidence igniting within her, she kept her stance resolute. This wasn't the time for self-doubt. She had found her strength through desperation. "Stay steady, Bella," she whispered under her breath, hoping her words could somehow reach the unconscious girl. Amid the chaos, Maya's instincts sharpened. She began to analyze the doctor's procedures more actively. They were a well-oiled machine, yet she noticed the small gaps in communication, the subtle moments of uncertainty. Did they even realize? Bella's critical condition was worsening? "Watch her heart rate," Maya called out, her voice rising above the din of alarms. She saw the lead doctor recheck the monitors, a frown crossing his features at the numbers flashing defiantly on the screen. "Yeah, we need more epinephrine," he barked, quickly turning back to the nurses. Every flicker of urgency fed Maya's growing resolve. She was no longer just an observer, she was a participant in this life-or-death struggle. The adrenaline granting her clarity, they were all too caught up, and someone needed to steer the ship amidst stormy seas. "What's her condition?" Maya asked, approaching the lead doctor cautiously yet firmly. "It's severe," he snapped, hardly turning his attention away from his patient. "We need more time." "Then what are we doing?" Maya pushed back, surprising herself with her boldness. "Your approach isn't aggressive enough. If we don't act quickly, she might not pull through." The doctor finally paused to meet her gaze, eyebrows raised in surprise. His defensiveness crumbled slowly, revealing uncertainty that Maya seized upon. "What do you suggest?" "More epinephrine and assess the potential toxins in her system. We need to stabilize her first, but we can't ignore the poisoning." The air shifted. Maya realized with an unsettling rush that she was no longer afraid of the possible repercussions of her assertiveness. This was about Bella's recovery. It always had been. "All right," the doctor conceded, glancing between Maya and his team. "Let's move." As urgency seized the room, Maya assisted in the coordination of tasks, directing attention toward the available resources. Each step sharpened her focus. She wasn't merely a waitress any longer. She was an advocate, fierce and unyielding in her determination to save Bella. The sound of rushing feet, orders called out, and the sterile smell of antiseptic became the backdrop for Maya's redefining moment. She began to comprehend the depth of her capabilities, each decision solidifying her identity as someone competent. As she maneuvered through challenges, she also confronted the shadow of her insecurities. Was it truly arrogant to assert herself when lives hung in the balance? But the reality pressing in against her now was complex. The man by the door, still lurking, never moved far from the chaos. His presence gnawed at her, a constant reminder of the tangled web Bella had been caught up in. His eyes seemed to glint with ulterior motives, a worry growing in the pit of her stomach. Trusting him felt like inviting chaos into an already turbulent situation. As the medical team rallied around her newfound leadership, Maya noticed the flicker of acknowledgement in the doctor's eyes. Perhaps she could be something more than she had known. Perhaps she could redefine the trajectory of her own life while saving another. Just then, another alarm echoed through the halls, signaling a critical drop in Bella's oxygen levels. Maya's heart raced as she braced herself against the approaching turmoil, facing the unknowns that still loomed ahead. Would she be able to save Bella and confront the lurking threats surrounding her? Each decision she made now echoed the essence of her growth. She was unearthing the strength to confront not just the medical crisis, but the moral dilemmas calling out for firm resolution. The stakes were rising higher than ever. Clarity and chaos intertwined, waiting for her next move.
Would this moment solidify Maya's place in this world, or would it reveal just how fragile her newfound convictions truly were? Maya's breath quickened as she processed the tolling alarm, announcing Bella's faltering oxygen levels. Each heartbeat seemed to synchronize with the relentless beep, a haunting metronome underscoring her steely resolve. Fear twisted in her gut, but it ignited a drive she hadn't just recently discovered. This was not about her. It was about turning the tide for Bella. The doctors and nurses surged into action, each movement an oiled gear in a chaotic machine. Maya could feel the weight of their collective anxiety swirling around her like a vortex, but she anchored herself with purpose. There was no room for anxiety to overshadow the task at hand. "Reassess her airway," she called, directing her attention towards the anesthesiologist. "If her oxygen saturation is dropping, we need to secure it now." The doctor's initial resistance melted away, swallowed by the severity of the crisis and Maya's commandeering voice. He nodded briskly, eyes flickering with newfound determination, and moved to adjust the oxygen mask over Bella. Maya couldn't help but feel a surge of satisfaction. This wasn't mere luck. It was the confidence born of her urgency that propelled her to voice concerns that might otherwise go overlooked. With every decision she made, the realization thrummed silently within her. She was capable of more than she had ever credited herself for. "Great, now let's prepare for intubation just in case she doesn't respond," Maya continued, her mind racing through the medical protocols she had learned from countless hours spent reading and absorbing everything she could about critical care. She hadn't realized until now how imperative that knowledge was, how it stitched together with her instinct, forming a tapestry of strength. The nurses exchanged glances of surprise paired with respect. She was guiding the team in a way they hadn't expected. Each moment felt electric. Through this potential catastrophe, Maya was unearthing a sense of agency she'd been blind to in her everyday life. She nourished that sense, feeding it with adrenaline and necessity, like watering a seed in parched soil. Her gaze darted to the door where the man lingered, his figure a shadow in the backdrop of the frenzy. What stakes might he hold in Bella's life? The cautionary instinct in her mind screamed to seek him out for answers later, shadowed by the reality that her focus belonged here, within these walls where life teetered on the edge of crisis. With a pang of urgency, Maya returned her attention to Bella. The room buzzed with the sound of clinical tools, voices intertwining with muffled. She had cornered the shadows of her own insecurities around her purpose, but the lurking menace outside threatened to explode that clarity into chaos. "Do you have the IV ready?" she urged to a nearby nurse, remembering the importance of fluids for stabilizing Bella's condition. "We need to fill her up. Every second counts." As the nurse obliged, Maya's heart thudded violently against her chest, a sudden spark of hope igniting within. She wasn't just leading, she was embodying a new identity, reshaping the narrative of her life from passivity to involvement. She was becoming someone worth trusting, not just by others, but by herself. But suddenly, the lead doctor's grim voice cut through her triumphant thoughts. "We're running out of time. Prepare for the possibility of CPR," he stated sharply, his hands trembling slightly as he adjusted the monitors. That flicker of panic snaked down Maya's spine. Instinctively, she inhaled deeply, pushing back the waves of uncertainty. She had come too far to let hesitation cloud her resolve. Maya knew that she was more than she had ever believed. This was her moment of truth, where mere survival wasn't the goal. It was about taking command of the situation. Was she truly equipped to handle this? As the medical team shifted their focus sharply towards Bella, inverting the air in the room, Maya felt a gravity she had yet to fully comprehend. She needed to confront the man lingering outside, but the fear of what he might reveal still loomed large. Time was racing as Bella's condition teetered, and each passing second demanded resolution. She could feel the stakes rising, her professional identity shaping with every choice she made. Would the pieces of this puzzle come together to illuminate the path forward, or would she fail to bridge the chasms separating uncertainty from clarity? Another alarm blared, drowning her thoughts into a turbulent sea of anxiety and urgency as she wrestled with the reality of what was unfolding before her. The moment had arrived to move decisively, but what would that ultimately mean for Maya and Bella? In the heart of turmoil, she braced herself for the next challenge. What other truths awaited her, and just how entwined were their destinies? Maya's hands were steady as they moved through the motions that felt, for once, instinctual. The spiraling fears of inadequacy dissipated into the background, and in its place surged the undeniable realization that she was in control. No longer tethered to hesitation, she felt empowered by the gravity of the situation. "CPR team, prepare to initiate," the lead doctor commanded, his voice firm but laced with urgency. The anticipation hung heavy. Maya inhaled deeply, centering her focus on Bella, envisioning the girl she needed to save, a child bursting with life moments before crisis had dared to intrude. As the team rallied, she locked eyes with the anesthesiologist. "We need to ensure each breath counts. If her heart stops, we need to switch to compressions immediately." Confidence sparked the connection as he nodded, affirming their tacit trust in each other. Under the rhythm of clattering equipment and heightened heartbeats, Maya fought an internal wave of uncertainty. Where was the line between her grasp of the situation and a sense of growing enormity that taunted her with every beep of machinery? She recalled the textbooks, the lectures, every clinical simulation that had felt like an exercise in futility. And yet, here, standing on the precipice of life and death, it was all crashing together like a fierce storm. "Maximize oxygen supply," she called out again, propelling herself toward the nearest nurse, who was pushing the cart with emergency equipment. A rush of authority surged through her voice. It didn't matter how she had felt moments ago. She was breaking through the fog of self-doubt to secure the tools that could help save Bella. But time was fleeting. As monitors beeped their urgent tones, Maya's gaze flickered back toward the doorway, where the mystery man still loomed. Was he merely an onlooker, or did he possess vital information that could help? In his eyes, she recognized a flicker of concern mingled with what appeared to be guilt. Yet a part of her wanted to dismiss that thought. She needed to prioritize Bella. With a shivering breath, she redirected her attention. This chaotic scene unfolded before her, but it also mirrored her internal confrontation. The girl on the table represented not merely a medical case, she was the beyond unfolding version of Maya herself. Each choice unveiled her latent determination, stitching together her fractured identity and allowing resilience to thrive in the face of adversity. "Start with manual breathing assistance," the lead doctor snapped, shifting the moment's tension. It was as if he fed off the pulse of the room, fueling a quiet bravery in Maya. Suddenly, she wasn't merely a medical assistant anymore. She was the heartbeat of this chaotic symphony, the conductor leading a desperate race against time. As the first series of compressions began, Maya found herself inching closer to the action. She positioned herself beside the bed, the urgency pulsating through her veins, humming resolutely with purpose. In this moment, it was clear, she wasn't just participating in the team, she was a vital component. Time warped. What felt like eons ticked by every second. There were no doubts left in Maya's mind. Shoulders squared, she spoke decisively. "Prep for epinephrine." The growing intensity blended seamlessly with her determination, and the unexpected feedback from the team filled her with fierce clarity. Yet the nausea of fear remained. It lingered at the edges of her resolve, reminding her of the high stakes. What if Bella didn't make it? But she understood now. She had to push through, not just for Bella, but also for herself. This was where she belonged, where she could forge an identity that was perseverant and anchored. Behind that resolve was something deeper, a yearning to escape the shadows of her past, to be forged anew in the fires of this crucible of crisis. The outside world faded into a whisper as she focused on the girl before her. The turmoil outside could wait. Just as Bella's monitor blinked erratically, a new alarm cut through the fray, this one distinct. The room froze momentarily. It chimed with foreboding urgency, and a fresh wave of panic surged through. Maya felt her heart race. This was not just about saving Bella anymore. Would the answers she was seeking about the man lurking at the threshold reveal tumultuous truths about herself? She was on the cusp of an unraveling that could shift everything she believed. With resolve crystallizing further, she knew she had to confront the man. Yet the very thought of drawing her focus from life-saving care sent tendrils of anxiety surging through her. Before she could hesitate, a doctor turned toward her, eyes wide with bewilderment. "Maya," he shouted over the din, "we need you here." The unrelenting question hung in the air. Could she stray from her path to seek clarity in the chaos? It was time to decide, but that moment would define her, both as a healer and as Maya. Maya's heart pounded in her chest, a drumbeat that synchronized with the chaotic symphony of alarms and voices swirling around her. The urgency in the lead doctor's voice sliced through her tumultuous thoughts. Focus on Bella. But the looming presence of the man at the door lingered like a shadow, pulling at Maya's attention. "Stay in the moment," she whispered to herself, the mantra barely audible above the cacophony. Every instinct urged her to assist, to assert her role in this life-or-death situation. Yet an insidious curiosity about the man's connection to the crisis gnawed at her. How could she push that away? Just as she began to chase that wisp of a thought, relentless shouts called her back to the fray. "Epinephrine ready!" a nurse yelled, breaking the tension. The sound grounded her, reminding her of the task at hand. She reached for the syringe, her fingers steady. But it was no longer just the clinical urgency that fueled her. It was a deeper purpose. The stakes had risen. Saving Bella was more than a medical obligation. It was about reclaiming her agency as a healer, as someone who mattered. Maya administered the epinephrine, and seconds stretched into what felt like eternity as they waited with held breaths. The team turned to the monitor, fixated, praying for signs of recovery. When a heartbeat flickered back to life on the screen, a collective sigh of relief washed over them. But Maya remained anchored in her own maelstrom of thoughts. Was this victory enough to quell her doubts, or were they merely momentarily silenced? With a fleeting glance toward the doorway, the man's expression had morphed, a mix of alarm and regret flitting across his features. He didn't belong here, of that she was certain. His presence took shape as an embodiment of questions too heavy to voice out loud, but the call for another round of compressions jolted her back to the moment. She fell into rhythm with the others, counting the beats, feeling the energy of the room. Each compression felt like a calculated strike on her own fears, a step toward embodying the professional she aspired to be. Validation surged within her, loud and clear. This was her place, and she was capable. As they pressed on, Maya's thoughts shifted back to the man. Now a cacophony of dread spiraled in her mind. What if she needed to know his story? What if it held important answers about Bella's condition, or further revelations about her own life? But each squeeze of her hands against Bella's chest reminded Maya, every second they spent without clarity weighed against the life beneath her fingertips. Throughout the unending cycle of adrenaline and trepidation, a question emerged. Could understanding her past help save the present? She had always buried her struggles, but perhaps awareness was the only way to bring them to light. Every moment in this room felt like it was challenging her to confront her reality. "Another dose," the lead doctor instructed. Resolve steeled within Maya as she prepared to follow through. Confidence built with each step, but she knew the decisions extending beyond the emergency room held potential to reshape her. The man at the door had become a pivotal element in her unfolding story. Just as the tension in the room seemed to peak, a phone buzzed loudly, the sound piercing the air like a dagger. Maya's eyes snapped back to the man. Now he was reaching into his pocket, retrieving a device that hinted at the potential truths he might hold. The clamor of their chaotic world faded into a terse silence that demanded her full attention. "Maya," called a doctor, bringing her focus back momentarily. "We need all hands now." But she hesitated, glancing once more at the man. Could he be the key to her enigmatic past? The path divided sharply before her: pursue the unknown or continue fighting for Bella's life. As the pressure mounted, the choices before her became inescapable. Would confronting him yield clarity, or was it an invitation into a storm of chaos that could unravel the very fabric of her newfound resolve? The room spun with urgency, and within her brewing conflict, she could feel the truth tantalizingly close. It would define her direction. In that instant, she realized, to heal Bella, she first needed to heal herself. The moment hung suspended, and it was clear the time had come to face not just Bella's emergency, but her own fractured identity. What whispers of truth would the man share, and would they be worth the risk of leaving Bella's side? Maya locked eyes with the man, the world around her morphing into a blur. She felt a pull, an unexplained bond bridging the chasm of their unspoken connections. The chaos felt distant now, a mere backdrop to the brewing confrontation. She had decided she would face him. "Just a minute," she murmured, urgency spilling over her words. She stepped back, momentarily leaving Bella in the confident hands of her team, all while the steady rhythm of compressions continued behind her. Every heartbeat counted, yet so did her need for answers. She had fought long enough to be seen as a competent doctor, but now she faced her looming past, waiting for her recognition. As she approached the man, his expression hardened, filled with layers of conflict she could barely decipher. The buzzing of the phone faded into silence. Their shared urgency eclipsed the tumult of the emergency room. "Who are you?" she demanded, words cascading from her lips like a waterfall, fierce and relentless. "Please, you need to go back," he implored, stepping forward, his voice low and urgent. "It's not safe for you here." "Not safe?" Her resolve pushed back at his concern, determination tightening her stance. "This is my place, and I need to know why you're here." For a moment, tension crackled between them, something raw, something unresolved. The hum of medical activity faded further still, eclipsed by the gravity of the moment. "Who are you?" she demanded, words cascading from her lips like a waterfall, fierce and relentless. "Please, you need to go back," he implored, stepping forward, his voice low and urgent. "It's not safe for you here." "Not safe?" Her resolve pushed back at his concern, determination tightening her stance. "This is my place, and I need to know why you're here." For a moment, tension crackled between them, something raw, something unresolved. The hum of medical activity faded further still, eclipsed by the gravity of the moment. "I'm connected to this," he gestured vaguely, his eyes darting towards the commotion behind her. "To Bella, to everything happening." A chill ran through her as his words hung heavy in the air, thick with implication. "How?" she pressed, every instinct screaming for more information. Before he could respond, the lead doctor's voice sliced through the tension, snapping her back to reality. "Maya, Bella's stabilizing, but we need everything prepared for transfer to trauma." She glanced back at the monitor, and, for a fragile instant, the numbers pulsing steadily gave her hope. But every strength and certainty started to waver again as she caught the man's gaze. There was pain hidden behind his intensity, a story in his eyes she desperately needed to uncover. "I can help," he admitted suddenly. The declaration felt like a lifeline thrown amidst drowning waters. "There are things you don't know about Bella, about yourself." Maya's heartbeat synced with the pulsing urgency of the moment. "Then tell me," she shot back, demanding clarity amidst the fog of desperation. The weight of his hesitation made her heart race anew. Was she standing at the edge of a revelation, or the brink of disaster? "You're not prepared for what you'll learn," he warned, voice dropping significantly, eyes narrowing as though the room itself was being layered with a thick fog of foreboding. As her mind spiraled through countless possibilities, she questioned the true nature of her commitment. Was she ready to confront the nexus of her past, just as she stepped into the role of protector in the now? "Stop," she said sharply. "You'll either help me or you'll leave." The ultimatum felt seismic, revealing the depth of her resolve. Each word sliced through the uncertainty, echoing her determination to reclaim the reality.
Narrative of her life. He drew a deep breath, weighing the choice under the watchful gaze of her resolve. "Fine, but you need to make a decision, now." Her gaze flickered back toward Bella, where the team still worked tirelessly to maintain her fragile state. What if the revelation shattered her focus? But deep inside, a voice whispered more insistently. The truth might be the key to everything. "Tell me," she said, heart racing. "I'm listening." The man stepped closer, the urgency of their connection thickening the air as the specter of a long-buried truth began to rise above the chaos. "Maya, if you want to save Bella, you need to confront the truth about your own family." In that instant, her vision tipped, balancing on the precipice of revelation. A decision she hadn't anticipated loomed large. What lay ahead would not just test her professional capabilities, but strip away the layers of her personal denial. She could no longer hold back from the tide of revelations crashing toward her shores. "Maya," he pressed, his voice a whisper now, "what are you willing to sacrifice for the truth?" Tension swelled within her. It was time to decide. Could she handle what came next, or would it shift everything she thought she knew into a chaotic unknown? Maya felt the air grow heavy around her, the urgency pressing down on her chest like a weight. The man's words ignited a fire in her mind, casting long shadows of doubt and fear. Her entire career had been built on a foundation of trust, both from her patients and herself, and the idea of possibly uncovering darker truths about her own beginnings churned the contents of her gut. A fleeting thought crossed her mind. Was she truly ready to unearth the past? The echoes of childhood laughter and carefree days mingled with memories of loss and abandonment. What if this revelation shattered her world? But then the sharp beeping of the monitors pulled her back, twisting her focus back to the present. Bella needed her, but could she do her job without knowing the full context of her own life? "I've dedicated my existence to saving others," Maya said, her voice steady but fierce. "I have to know, even if it tears at me." He regarded her for a long moment, the tension slackening but replaced by an urgency that made Maya's heart race. "Your mother, she's more than just your mother. She held secrets that could change everything regarding your identity, and it's time you know the truth." "Speak plainly," she snapped, frustration mingling with her fear. "You're not just throwing vague warnings into the air. Tell me what you know." His brow furrowed, and he leaned closer, the intensity of his expression pulling her in. "Your mother was involved in something much greater, something linked to people who control lives for their own gain. Bella's condition, it's tangled with decisions made long ago. If you uncover this truth, it may not only affect how you see your family, but could put you and those you care about in grave danger." Maya felt a sharp pang in her chest. Was her mother a victim or a predator? The thought churned in her mind like a storm, stoking her curiosity but also igniting dread. "I can handle the truth, whatever it is," she declared, though uncertainty crawled along her spine. "Can you really? Think about what might happen if you dig deeper," he warned, tone lowering, eyes tracking hers as if searching for any sign of weakness. The doctor inside her clamored against the walls of her psyche. In the lonely hours of night spent in the hospital, she had learned infectious diseases, complex pharmacology, and life-saving techniques. Conceiving of family secrets felt infinitely more daunting. Yet every patient she had seen brought back memories of her own, igniting a desire to uncover the truth instead of burying it. As they exchanged glances, Maya realized how important clarity was, both in her practice and in her understanding of herself. There was strength in the truth, and while it frightened her, the decay of ignorance was far worse. It would eat away at her spirit like an unchecked infection. "What if I already know something about her?" she mused, almost to herself. She felt the tide of a fleeting memory slipping through her fingers. A hushed conversation overheard as a child, a cryptic phrase about family ties. Was that the moment she had unwittingly delved into the story? Before he could reply, a loud crash echoed from the back of the emergency room, immediately fracturing the tension. A gurney rattled, leaving behind a flurry of shouts as other doctors scrambled. Maya turned instinctively, adrenaline surging through her veins as the layers of her conversation began to unravel. "Stay here, we'll talk later," she ordered, her voice filled with urgency. The need for her professional self surged forward, eclipsing her personal turmoil, even if just momentarily. She moved toward the commotion, making split-second decisions as chaos erupted. Yet, in the corner of her mind, an unshakable thought stirred. The truth she was so desperately seeking was tangling with the realities of her life and profession, forcing her into a corner where personal growth and professional duty collided. But as a patient was wheeled past, her eyes scanned for the man, searching for guidance even as she moved closer into the sea of crisis surrounding her. What awaited her if she pushed through the lies and facades? With every beat of her heart, the reality sank. The delicate balance of understanding who she was lay entwined with every life she touched. And as the sirens wailed and the emergency lights pulsed against the sterile walls, a realization crept in. Some revelations were meant to be directly faced, whether in a hospital or the chambers of her heart. "Maya!" a voice called out, snapping her back as she turned. It was the team, their urgency reigniting her focus on the task at hand.
But she couldn't shake off the feeling that what lay ahead was not merely a series of challenging medical emergencies. It would also be a confrontation with her past, stitched tightly into the fabric of decisions she had yet to unearth. She squared her shoulders, resolving to speak with the man again when the time was right. Would she be ready to confront the reality behind her family history? Time would tell. A truth was coming, and it felt as inevitable as the life-or-death situation tearing through the emergency room. As she plunged into the chaos, a question looped in her mind. Was she ready to stake everything she knew against the revelations waiting on the horizon? The stakes were higher than ever, and the promise of the truth lingered in the shadows, intertwining her fate with Bella's. In that moment, she realized the journey ahead wouldn't just forge her as a doctor. It held the key to her identity, ready or not. What awaited her was not just an emergency, it was a reckoning. Maya stepped out of the emergency room, her heart still pounding from the chaotic moments within. Bella's condition had stabilized, but today was more than a medical crisis. It was a transformative turning point. The fog of uncertainty that had enveloped Maya began to lift as she reflected on her actions. She had stepped into her power, asserting herself not only as a caretaker, but as a voice worthy of respect. She had fought through the noise of self-doubt and stepped into the light of her capability. As the adrenaline ebbed away, a newfound confidence settled within her. This was the culmination of every shift at the diner, every moment spent caring for her family, and now an opportunity to reclaim her own narrative. The haunting past tied to her family threads began to weave context into her identity, each piece starting to make sense. She wasn't just a waitress anymore. She was a woman determined to forge her own path, seeking the truth about her heritage while actively saving lives. As the medical staff dispersed, Maya sought out the man who had sparked this personal reckoning. She found him against a wall, a distant expression in his eyes suggesting a convergence of emotions, relief, regret, and an unspoken bond. "Your insight, it opened a door for me," she said, boldly approaching him. But I need answers. I can't act as though I can handle everything without knowing who I am." He glanced at her, surprise coloring his features. "You don't yet realize the implications of the truth," he cautioned. But Maya's resolve was etched in her demeanor. She had spent too long living in the shadows of others' expectations. "Don't you see? My experience today proved something fundamental. My worth isn't determined by my past. It's measured by my actions and the strength I find within," she asserted, the conviction in her voice resonating like a bell. "If you know something that could change how I view
"Myself, you have to tell me." A flicker of admiration crossed his face. He understood. There was unyielding resilience in her plea. "Then you need to know about your mother, and about the choices she made that intricately tie you to Bella. It's not just about your identity. It's about understanding the gravity of those connections." Maya's heart raced, not with fear this time, but with anticipation. Uncertainty loomed like a specter, but unlike before, she welcomed it. Here was an opportunity to unlock mysteries she had often shied away from. With her newfound assertiveness, she felt the warmth of courage ignite within. "I'm ready," she affirmed, grounding herself. "I want to understand how deep this connection goes. Tell me everything." He nodded, slowly revealing layers of her mother's past, a tapestry woven with threads of difficult choices, rich motivations, and an inescapable connection to Bella's family. Maya listened intently, not just absorbing the revelations, but also understanding the profound implications of what it meant for her life moving forward. With each detail, she consciously wove it into her identity, embracing both the darkness and potential light. The stakes felt infinite, but so was her capacity to adapt. Maya had a path laid out before her, a journey intertwined with Bella's, rooted in clarity and resilience. "Thank you," she said, her voice filled with sincerity as he finished. "I believe I can use this to forge steps toward my destiny." The incredible weight lifted from her back simultaneously inspired a surge of unwavering confidence. Later that evening, reflecting on all that had transpired, Maya sat outside beneath the stars. She closed her eyes and drew in a deep breath, letting the cool air fill her lungs. She knew she would be an advocate for Bella, not just in crisis, but beyond. The very fabric of her life would transform. Aspirations of going to medical school, the dream she had formed years before, felt tangible now. She was energized by purpose. That pivotal encounter had been both a storm and a catalyst for growth. The turmoil sparked by Bella's emergency carved a new path, one where Maya thrived on her own terms. Assertiveness was her armor. She stepped into her power, learning to navigate her life story, and the truth became a guiding star rather than a frightening abyss. With unwavering determination, she resolved to serve the community through her practice, helping others as she had helped Bella. She imagined launching programs focused on assisting those from disadvantaged backgrounds gain access to healthcare, something that hadn't been available to her family. Maya knew that her journey would blossom into a powerful legacy, allowing her to redefine herself not solely by her family name, through compassion and unwavering connection. After a moment of reflection, Maya raised her phone. She opened her favorite social media platform and started typing, her fingers deftly creating an announcement about her future intentions in the medical field, inspiring others to face their own obscured paths and uncertainties. Maya's growth shone brilliantly. Now, she was no longer just a waitress or a daughter defined by her family's shadows. She was a spark of change, a symbol of resilience, and a woman prepared to tackle every challenge life threw her way. You need to subscribe now to witness the next chapter in Maya's journey and explore personal revelations that will ignite your own transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and ensure that more inspiring stories reach lives seeking a beacon of hope. Drop a comment with your thoughts and theories about Maya's incredible turn and how her journey might inspire others to confront their own truths. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion and embrace their potential to transform. Your support makes all the difference.